this one, do you recommend, putting in a smoothie? Do you recommend,
That's our new
yeah,
smokable line of, I'm just trying it out. I think some people might love it. I'm trying to get a more addictive product out there.
they considered it like a lifelong disease, autoimmune disease that only gets worse. I completely had cured myself of something that a doctor told me I would have for the rest of my life. Psychedelic mushrooms, they grow most at the fringes of society rather than deep in the depths of nature, which is like a nicer cup of coffee, and then also have a daily dose of the health benefits.
Thank you, business, for being so hard that I had to grow to be able to match or be able to handle the difficulty that it takes to get to even this level of business that we're in.
Some of the most pivotal moments in my life, the most important moments, were the ones where I hit rock bottom.
One of my favorite things about getting to do these podcasts is I get to sit down with friends many of the times and get to hear about them for 2 hours, their stories, like their origin story, where are they from? I'm like, oh, we've been friends for, I don't know, 5 years, but there's so much that I don't know about you. And I find that after these podcasts, I'm like a much closer friend to whoever I sit down with. So I'm looking forward to deepening our friendship through this.
Likewise.
Nice.
Likewise.
And so I am curious because I'm like, tell me a little bit about your origin story. Where are you from? What were you like as a kid? What were like those early days like for you? In a sense of helping me and the audience to understand how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in the Northeast, which in hindsight, so I grew up in the Boston area, and in hindsight, I didn't realize how lucky I was to be surrounded by so many trees. It wasn't until I moved out to Colorado that I realized, wow, I was lucky to have trees everywhere in New England. It's very dense with a variety of species of trees, and grew up right next to the town forest, which also was such a blessing. But that had me at a very young age, spending time in the woods, interacting with nature, building forts in the woods, and I'm not going to lie, that played a huge role in a lot of my curiosities for nature and moving forward, in my life, and so grew up in the Boston area, went to your classic high school and local college, and as soon as I got a degree, I moved out to Colorado to pursue more nature.
So for some reason, I thought you grew up in like the Seattle area.
Yeah, Northeast, not Northwest. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so a bunch of trees. I grew up in a similar way. I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, right next to like a forest preserve. Chicago's got a ring of forest around it to help filter out the pollution. And so I was always in the forest. Same, like Swiss Family Robinson style, building tree forts or mountain biking. What type of trees did you have out in the Boston area? What type of plants did you feel most called to?
Well, I think New England's famous for like the foliage, right? So you have like the oak and the maple, and the leaves change colors, and I think it's a special thing that you can take for granted and assume that must happen everywhere. I mean, out here in Colorado, everybody, gets excited and leaf peeps at the aspen trees changing, and that's just like one out of many of the fireworks going on in New England. And I followed that curiosity, and I ended up actually working in environmental conservation out of college, and spending time up in the Appalachian Trail in New Hampshire, and that was also a really important time for me in my development with my relationship with nature and plants and mushrooms.
And what called you out to that? Did you have family that was into nature, that someone that was kind of like guiding you through, showing you nature, like into herbal remedies, into just being out in the forest? Who was around you influencing?
I think it was like the baby steps, right? Like my family, in a very basic introduction to the outdoors, used to take me skiing a lot, and I fell in love with just being in the mountains, getting fresh air. I was very privileged to be able to do. And then, there was also, my father used to always take me camping. We would go up and spend a couple weeks every summer, every year, going up to Maine or New Hampshire, and doing things like hiking and fishing. And I think slowly that just consumed more of me over time.
How would you describe your energy? Like, who were you as a kid? What was just what kind of kid were you?
I was a thinker. I was very curious. I was so much in my head thinking and following my curiosities that I think I was a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of a quieter. Looking back, I imagine, I saw myself like with a parked bicycle right at the edge of the forest, like watching a caterpillar move across my finger. That was kind of like me as a kid. And yeah.
Were you on solo missions? Did you have a group of friends or a best friend that you're going into nature with?
Kind of at that age, the neighborhood friends, we would, come together and play capture the flag and whatnot. And I don't know if anyone really, I think I was the instigator of like, let's go build a fort in the woods. Let's, have a little bonfire in a safe way, in the woods. And I got into the Boy Scouts and that whole trajectory. But I think a lot of that was independently driven, not necessarily from peers.
What badge did you make it to?
I didn't make it all the way. I actually finished Cub Scouts, and I actually didn't finish Boy Scouts.
I did Boy Scouts as well. I made it to Life, one short of Eagle. My brother made it to Eagle.
I love it. You're a better man than I.
Did you? Were you in Boy Scouts? Were you getting merit badges? Do you remember any of that?
So I made it to Wee Below, and that's when I dropped out. Yeah.
Okay. So you weren't doing any like wilderness survival or anything like that?
Not at that age. I ended up pursuing more of that in college.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. You did. So then tell me about your what maybe like high school, then what like college looked like for you.
Yeah. I think high school, it was about getting through the academic system and trying to get into college to please my parents. So a lot of my own personal interests were sort of put aside in high school, and my parents wanted me to do something logical, like go be an engineer. So I was continuing to try to please them, and I went to engineering school in Boston. And a surprisingly big factor for me in my college choice was whether or not they had an outdoors club and access to going up and into nature. And the school I chose had a cabin that you could access on the weekends. And so that was like my safe haven. I was in the city, and I really did not like being in the city. I was not a city person, but sometimes when you're getting a college degree, you just have to, pick the cheapest option and get it done. And I think I was so stressed out by the end of the university system, by the end of that degree, that I needed to actually heal myself from what that experience was like. I actually had some stomach issues that I had developed. I had Western medicine doctors telling me that, I had a condition, ulcerative colitis. Have you heard of it? They considered it like a lifelong disease, autoimmune disease that only gets worse, without ever asking me about my sleep, my diet, my workload, these factors. And I knew deep down intuitively that I could heal myself. And so instead of pursuing a career in engineering, which a lot of those jobs did not really have much impact, I took a job working in environmental conservation in New Hampshire, and just spent the summer basically living in a tent in the woods. That's when my curiosity for plants, mushrooms, and learning from nature began for me. And I had peers who were like herbalists who taught me about, for example, chaga mushroom that had been used in Eastern medicine for thousands of years, but also by Native Americans, and how it can easily be identified and foraged, extracted into basically a tea. And I just started consuming that, learning about adaptogens, and just getting so fascinated with how amazing consuming different adaptogens and functional mushrooms, at this point specifically chaga, made me feel. And that was my journey into being a plant curious person,
Yeah. So you, after university or during university, you developed some type of an ulcer?
Yeah, it's kind of an autoimmune disease where your immune system basically starts attacking your stomach.
And is that from a place of stress, or how do you think that
They
developed?
actually don't know. I have no idea what causes it. And they lump it together with, there's like Crohn's, colitis, and there's a whole foundation dedicated to helping people with these conditions, but they have no idea what causes them. They typically recommend frequent doctor visits, all sorts of medications, all sorts of, appointments, and to examine, what's going on. And I just knew deep down something was wrong about the way that I was living holistically. And I needed, that I think in the Northeast, everything is so prevalently focused on Western medicine and treating symptoms and not looking at the root cause. and my mother was a nurse, and she couldn't get outside of that lens either. And and at the end of this 4-month period in nature, trying to live, sleep to the schedule of the sun and move my body all day and eat real foods. At the end of that 4-month summer, I completely had cured myself of something that a doctor told me I would have for the rest of my life.
It completely gone.
Completely in remission, I guess is the proper medical term for that.
Okay. And have you experienced it again? Has it come back?
I've had a mild flare up during another stressful event, with some family, a loss of a family member, but nothing like what it was. And it seems like it's something that, should I start to live in a way that is not in harmony with what nature sort of prescribes of us, then I can introduce these higher likelihoods of having a disease, which, as you see more and more data come out, it's like, it makes so much sense. Like, wow, a lot of these diseases are within our control.
Yeah, we don't need Western medicine. We just need to spend more time in nature and consume more nature.
And, and I'd love your thoughts. I wouldn't go as far as to say we don't need it, but I would go as far as to say as it's only part of an answer or of an approach to fixing something. And you have to imagine, as if you didn't have that, what else could you do? And, I wouldn't totally throw it out. I think sometimes you need it.
For sure. For me, I think it's more of in an emergency. If I break my arm, I'm really glad that they know how to, fix a broken arm. I don't know how much green tea I could drink that's going to fix my broken arm. But yeah, I think it's live a as natural a life as possible. That's part of what brought me to Boulder. Is like we're right at the doorstep of phenomenal nature, getting to live amongst it more than a lot of places I've lived.
Totally. And I love how you said that, and because precisely what was happening for me was I was drinking mushroom tea, and it did heal an autoimmune disease.
Now tell me about that. So the did you say it was chaga?
Yep, chaga.
Chaga tea. Tell us about the chaga mushroom, because you offer products today with your brand Peak State. You infuse it into your coffees. Tell us about chaga and maybe what other people think of chaga too.
Sure. Chaga is a mushroom mycelium that grows often on birch trees in subarctic environments, colder, often northern environments, at least in the northern hemisphere. Simple terms, it is a superfood. It contains more antioxidants than any other food. If you measure the OCAR score, which is how you measure antioxidants. It has anti-inflammatory effects on the body. I think if there's any science that has really studied what functional mushrooms can do, it points to supporting the immune system and helping observe the relationship between gut health and immune health. That's really, I think, what the science says about what chaga can do for you. It does have adaptogenic properties. It may help with blood sugar regulation. It may help with cholesterol regulation. I think what's so fascinating about it is it grows symbiotically with its host, with the trees. It's actually parasitic to the trees that it grows on. And so it's basically hyper concentrating all of the benefits, or all of the medicinal properties that a birch tree might have into a very nutrient dense organism. So it's really interesting from an environmental ethics perspective, because when you think about foraging it and foraging chaga, you basically have to identify it and then, take a sharp object like a hatchet or something, take a portion of it off of the tree and try to leave some for it to regenerate. But, then you can over forage chaga, which is a whole thing to get into, but it is parasitic to the tree. So you think about, okay, well, is this helping the tree, or should I be focused on preserving chaga in itself? And so, sustainable foraging practices include, taking a portion of it and allowing the rest to regenerate, or exploring options that are more sustainably grown. And that's a little bit about chaga. There's a lot to go deep into if you want.
Yeah. So you called it an adaptogen for those maybe not familiar with that. What does that mean?
So adaptogens help with stress balance. What they are believed to do is activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, not the fight or flight. So reducing cortisol levels and helping with stress resilience in the body. So activating parts of the brain that produce chemicals to balance our stress levels. And that's why a lot of people, I guess we're more stressed out as a society than maybe we've been in a long time. So that's why adaptogens are becoming a trendy product or trendy ingredient.
One way that I've heard it explained is it will shift with the direction your body needs. Does it need to upregulate, deregulate? It'll do different things to different people. It identifies what the body needs, and it moves you in that kind of healing direction.
That's a very well said. I like that.
So you found chaga. Someone was teaching you how to forage it. Someone was bringing you into that. And then how do you make a tea out of it? Can you just cut it up and steep it, or how do you consume chaga?
Yeah, effectively, yes, right? But then the question is, how do you make a mushroom bioavailable to the body? And what you need to do is extract some of those health benefits. So
because you can't just eat a raw mushroom and get benefits, right?
And this is like so important because there's a lot of products in the market selling mushroom stuff, and often what they might be doing is not even growing it in a nutrient dense way and just pulverizing it into a powder, and then you just eat that or drink that. And it's so important that you actually extract the nutrients out of the mushroom. So at least 2 ways to do that include a hot water extraction, which is perhaps the oldest method. That's why vegetable soup came to be. It's effectively a hot water extraction and extracting all those nutrients out of the cell walls of the plants, out of the cellulose, right? And the cell wall of fungi, depending on how you pronounce it, is chitin. That is also not bioavailable until you extract it. Hot water extraction is effectively, letting it steep in hot water for a while.
Is there a certain temperature that unlocks it? Like after it's at 160 for 20 minutes, then you can get it? Or
so short answer is no. However, here's an important detail. There are some medicinal compounds that are not able to be extracted with hot water that hot water might denature. So another way to extract some of these medicinals is an alcohol extraction. So you would first do an alcohol extract, and then you would do a hot water extraction. And you can then combine the 2 liquid extracts and make a tincture. So
I didn't even know you had tinctures.
Yeah. So this is a dual extract of mushroom fruiting body. And
Can I see?
yeah.
Wow. When did this happen?
Well, it's actually how we infuse our coffee beans with liquid extract. And we started, this is the extract that we infuse with our coffee, but we started also selling this for those who don't drink coffee and just want a daily dose of some of the health benefits of the mushrooms. It also helps us educate people on how we infuse mushrooms with a coffee bean. We start by showing them this is a liquid. Mm-hmm. Coffee bean is a solid. We basically can coat the coffee beans with that liquid.
Oh, wow. Now, what options do we have here?
Yeah, so we have our 3 products. We have one for daily brain health, one for immunity, and one for stress.
And those are coffees?
Coffees, whole bean coffee.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also sell it pre-ground. And we will extract the mushrooms and infuse it with the coffee beans. And the idea is it's easy to forget a morning vitamin or supplement, but if you are a coffee drinker, you never forget your morning coffee. Mm-hmm. And so there's a nice way to build a compliance into your routine. You won't forget it. You'll accidentally do something healthy for you.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's podcast, B Micro, the easiest way to sneak vegetables into any meal. Due to soil depletion, GMOs, and monocropping, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. So in 2018, I founded B Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the US to help Americans get more concentrated natural nutrients into their diet. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life when they're 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, nutrients, all the good things that we need. Our microgreens are grown here in the US in soil in a greenhouse. They're certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze dry them to extend their 1-week shelf life to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors, broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane and its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of red cabbage, radish, and broccoli, the most potent detox formula we've tested, offering you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these microgreens in any meal. Eggs, smoothies, pizza, pasta, even your kids' mac and cheese, you can't even taste it. Use code STEVE15 to save at bmicro.farm.
So you're doing this chaga tea in the forest. You discovered chaga. How do you explain what mushrooms are? Because they're not quite a plant, they're not quite an animal. There's something in the middle. What is a mushroom?
Yeah, I mean that's why they're in their own kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Fungi, they that's a big question. They reproduce differently with spores. I think what's really interesting about fungi is we're more closely related to them than plants.
Interesting.
And so we share something like 60% of the same DNA as mushrooms.
Is that why they can be so helpful and so harmful? Because we're so closely related to them?
That's an interesting question. Let's talk about what can make them helpful is because of the 60% of the DNA or so that we share with mushrooms, they've developed evolutionary mechanisms to provide immune defenses against different viruses, different bacteria, and we can benefit from those same antibacterial and antiviral properties that they've developed. So that's why
they've developed to protect themselves.
But we're threatened by those same pathogens, and so by consuming functional mushrooms, you're actually helping your immune system be more protected against some of those viruses and bacteria. And that's because of what we share. Now, as far as some of the harmful effects of different mushrooms, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. There's a lot of curiosities about mushrooms that we're still trying to figure out. I would say we know the least out of at least plants, animals, and we know the least about fungi. And that's why we're going through a little bit of a renaissance. Particularly if you look at psychedelic mushrooms.
I bet people joke with you all the time about that. I bet that's every other person. Are these magic mushrooms?
All the time, right? But what's so interesting about them is they don't want to kill you. What do they want from us, right? They're not actually trying to. If something is poisonous, it wants you not to eat it so that it can survive. Well, that's not the case. In fact, the part of the mushroom, the cap that can regenerate, the fruiting body can regenerate. It's really evolutionary curiosity, because what is the purpose of it? So that's a really good question about why can some harm us? Why can some influence how our brain is experiencing the world, and why are some really healthy for us?
Now, is there anything that you believe to be true that you think most people wouldn't know or wouldn't agree with around mushrooms? Anything that is what's coming to mind for me is the Stone Ape theory. You talk about psychedelics and people are like, what the heck are mushrooms? Are they an alien that came down here to help us evolve? And how did humans develop so quickly? How come our brain doubled in size over a relatively short period of time? The Stone Ape theory says that these hunter-gatherers that were traveling over the plains were just started eating mushrooms, and that open them up in a way that many people enjoy today, just an opening of the mind and changing the perspective. And are you familiar with that theory?
Yeah, and I'm impressed that you are familiar with it. I think they're sort of conjecturing that it may have created like language, right? It created the lateral thinking for a language to form. I think there's a lot of really fun theories, and I don't know enough to know which ones might be able to be said to be true. I think one belief that I have that isn't well founded, but I believe that they're here to teach us something. And what's interesting about, like, for example, psychedelic mushrooms, they grow most at the fringes of society rather than deep in the depths of nature. They like to grow right where, the concrete jungle ends and the forest begins. Like, why is that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think of where they're growing just from in cow pastures.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, that as well, but so there's a lot of interesting things about them, and what's their purpose here.
If you were to just find it randomly, you're saying it's like maybe like right at the edge of the city.
Yeah, like what I'm saying is they're very accessible to us, as if they want us to discover them.
Yeah.
If
you were to personify maybe the psilocybin psychedelic mushroom, who is that mushroom? Is it more of like a mother, grandmother figure? Or is it more of like a fatherly grandfather? Like what might the energy of that mushroom be that people could somewhat relate to if they're completely unfamiliar?
And full transparency, we work with functional mushrooms, non-psychedelic mushrooms, that's really where most of my knowledge lies. I think that this is a whole world of talking about psychedelic mushrooms. What I hear anecdotally and through the science is this sort of maternal wisdom energy would be coming from people who have experienced medicine like that.
I've experienced that medicine quite a bit, and how I would describe it is more like a jokester cousin.
Okay.
It can be a little bit unpredictable. It's a little bit really, I mean, all these master plants are like ego erasers, but this one, instead of being more like the mother of like an ayahuasca or a cannabis, or the father of like a peyote or a tobacco, it's much more like a cousin that's like this jokester that is like, I'm going to get you to where you want to go and maybe the healthiest place for you to go, but you might not exactly, enjoy the ride of getting there. It might be a little unpredictable. And there's many strains of everything. Some strains are a lot stronger, some strains are a lot lighter, but I would say to me, it personifies much more as like a jokester.
Huh, I like that.
And it's very powerful and beautiful, and it can create for, like, in a sacred way is how I consume plants 99% of the time. And like in a prayerful way, in like a good container like that. And it could really, those types of ceremonies are probably my favorite because it's the most like a party. Where many ceremonies are like, okay, you're on your mat, you just stay in your spot. And it's like with like a mushroom ceremony, it is very much like, all right, many people are playing instruments. You get up and you could dance. It's not so serious. It's much more like a playful kind of healing space. And
a question for you about your experience. I did one of those. Now, I actually had a blindfold on the whole time. Is that something that you've done before, or did you have more of an outward experience?
I've done both. So
Okay.
The blindfold is very much to encourage the inward experience, to go in. If you have open eyes, or even light is coming in, it's harder to go like deep into the shadow, into the depths of self. And if you are open eyes, you're more physical world. Close eyes, you're much more in the spiritual world, in like the invisible world. And I think there's reason that world is invisible. I don't think we're meant to go there like all the time, or meant to really even understand what that world is. But there's a deep knowledge there. And I think these plants, these master plants, allow us to connect more with our own soul, which I think is infinite. And that's just our physical self. It's like, okay, we live to 100 and we die. Our soul is eternal, and our soul is connected to God. And all our souls are also connected. We're all like fractals of God, and God is love. I think that's what all religions come from. I think there's many religions that have carvings and pictures of mushrooms in them. There's a lot in the Christian church. There's many pictures of mushrooms. So there's thoughts that many religions come from consuming some of these sacred plants, and they're like, "Whoa! I just experienced like complete love. I need to tell people about this and help people to understand this." So I think most religions are rooted in love, and God is love. You can experience that connectedness with these plants. Like we're all connected. We're all just like mirrors to each other, and we're all just helping each other along this path. And I don't think anything is on accident. I think that the chances of us connecting and becoming friends is 1 in however many billion people that are here.
At least 8 now.
8 billion? Yeah.
I love it. I agree. There's a lot there, but I mean, I think that's really the goal, is connecting with that universal power and the power of love, and figuring out how to incorporate that into your life, right?
I think it's first feel it for oneself. Like if I can love myself, then I can love other things, and I can allow other people to love me as well. Like no one is going to ever love and respect me more than I love and respect myself.
That's a big thing I took away also. I was remembering how much I love and forgive my dog for all sorts of misbehavior, right? And then I think one of my biggest takeaways was that I can love myself like I love my dog, right? We always flip that the other, like, there's like a funny little kind of, I don't know,
meme,
a cheer, or something, a toast. There's a funny toast like, may we be loved as much as our dog loves us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think you can flip that. Like, maybe love ourselves as much as we love our and forgive, the people that we love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be that a pet or whatever. And I think learning self-love and needing that outside perspective to get there is so important and so powerful.
And through these plants, they can give you a glimpse at that just like really pure love. So it's like, oh, I know that is possible, and maybe I've only got to feel it for an hour, but now I know it's true, and I have a sense of that, and I can now start to do daily practices to support that through just the sunrise, eating and drinking clean things in a good way, consuming, not like looking at bad things, being in community, moving the body. There's so many things that we can do to like love ourselves. And the better we take care of ourselves, the better I take care of myself, the easier it is for me to connect with my soul, to connect with love and move from a place of love, versus there's been times in life where I'm like, oh, I'm making decisions from a place of fear or anxiety. It's like those decisions don't really work out. How can I just stay move from the place of love and inspiration?
I love that. That's great. Where did your curiosity for plants begin?
I grew up in a very similar way. I'm happy to know we have a similar story. Now, I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago. I grew up in around the Forest Preserve. There's a ring of forest that surrounds Chicago. The thought that was protected to help filter out the factory air. So we've got a lot of forests. It's very flat, but we've got a lot of forests. And right next to my childhood house that my parents still live in, there's a forest. And I just go in there and I would turn fallen trees into spaceships. And I got really into like Swiss Family Robinson and like climbing trees and trying to make tree houses, and just having fun in the forest with local neighborhood friends who became some of my best friends. And then we got really into mountain biking, and we just spent as much time as we could in nature. And then that was it. And then I was like, okay, now I've got to go more. High school started to happen, sports and school started to happen, and then university happened. And that was, I started to move away from nature in those times. And then I got a career in software sales did that for 10 years. And that was a great career. And yet that was the farthest I've ever been from nature. I'm basically in an airport or a hotel or a computer screen all day, every day. Even though monetarily, that was the most successful I ever was, and was like completely taken care of and then some in that way. There was a lot of opportunity for me to be healthier, and like a pendulum, like I swung too far into an unhealthy way of alcohol, like fast food, just unhealthy habits. It's like, it's got to swing back. So I'm like, I'm actually going to leave corporate America. And I just backpacked around the world solo for a year. I found myself in the jungles of Iquitos, Peru, which is the largest city in the world, not accessible by road, on the Amazon jungle. Over 500,000 people live there. You either fly there or you take a 7-day boat trip there. And I got to connect with plants in a really powerful way for the first time. And through that, just going through the jungle with indigenous and looking through that world through their eyes, they're like, that's food, that's medicine, that's shelter, that's poison. I'm like, I just see a tree and I just see a bush. I don't see anything. And I got to sit with some of their sacred plants that really opened me up in a similar way that psilocybin can, real master plants. And that shifted everything for me. I never sat with like any type of plant medicine before. It was just, grew up very conservative Christian. That stuff is equivalent to like heroin in that world, which is not true at all, but it's like blanket statement. It's all good. Pharmaceuticals, alcohol, that's okay on average. Anything to do with indigenous culture, anything to do with psychedelic plants, that's the devil, which is kind of wild to think, but that is really the thinking of it. So I thought that until I'm 39. This happened when I was maybe 32. So until 32, never consumed any plant, never consumed anything, never smoked anything, nothing. I thought it was all just like the devil heroin. And that really opened me up. I was like, wait, what? Like in that experience, I was like, it was a perspective shift. It
And you
was,
probably found Jesus.
yeah, really. And now I still love Jesus, and Jesus I believe was a real person and an ascended master and somebody to respect and I pray to. I don't only pray to like the doctrine of the Christian church. There's many things of it that just don't work for me, and clearly it works for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are part of it for a long time, but I came back to Colorado after that experience, basically turned my apartment into a hydroponic farm, and then just kept going, just kept following the plants. How much can I learn about these plants? I started growing them, just spending as much time with them. And, they just kept showing me. They just kept like unfolding. They're like, look at this. This is opening. You think you're going to go down this door? This door is opening. This door is closed. You think you're going to go through this door? There's doors. I was like, oh, for sure, that's the door. Like, nope, it's actually this one. I'm like, oh, well, that's a pretty cool door too. So I'm really just been in the trust and following of these plants. And my mission is one of spreading these plants, and plants, through the power and magic of photosynthesis, they eat light. When these plants eat light, that's how they grow. That's their food. And so by spreading these plants, it's like a spreading of light. And I really feel that as part of my mission is like spread light.
Wow, I love that. That just reminded me of, one of my mentors was talking about how certain plants will literally start to open their leaves when birds sing, right? So the sun rises and then birds start singing, and then plants open their leaves to the sound of birds singing. And then all of a sudden, they're able to breathe in carbon dioxide because they've opened and release oxygen for us to breathe. And this is like all happening to allow us to breathe oxygen. And it's like, we forget that too often.
There's so much that we don't know, and so much that we just aren't taught in school. It's like amazed how little I was taught that in school about that, all the way to how to balance my like checking account. It's just like I have not learned much. The things that I've learned that I enjoy the most are from indigenous cultures. These cultures that were the closest to nature, literally living like in teepees or like huts in nature, like fully connected to nature. And how do they pray, and how do they work with plants, and how do they look at plants, and how do they think about plants? And that's where a lot of my teachings of the past 6 years have come from in this way. And how do I pray and just move through life?
Is there a place to go to get information? I feel like this is some of the most important information
right
that
here,
we can
Plant
possibly
Frequency Podcast.
Besides the
Sponsored by
podcast, though,
me.
are there some books you recommend on native and indigenous medicine, indigenous teachings that this is like such important information? I feel like we're at the risk of losing access to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say we're absolutely at risk. These indigenous have overcome prosecution, death, torture, all to keep these traditions alive. When the U.S. when America was settled on by Christopher Columbus and like the Europeans, they made it illegal for the Native Americans to speak their own language, to do sweat lodges, to have their sacred plants, like all under the because it opens people up too much. It allows people to be like, hey, that's not quite right. It shifts the perspective. It helps us to see what's true and not true. So a lot of persecution in those ways, and a lot of cultures have paid the ultimate sacrifice to keep these practices moving forward. I would say for me, how it's shown up is it's all in-person teachings.
In-person oral traditions from those people, right?
Yeah. I would say I listen to a lot of the music, and they're of South and North American indigenous. I'll listen to that music, and that downloads something that like gets into my heart, helps me to like understand in that way. But then I sit with different medicine teachers, and then those teachers share, whatever teaching they have to share. For everyone from Lakota, I sit with the most, Navajo, and then different tribes from South America. Some of those from South America travel up here to Boulder. Boulder's a bit of a like a hotbed for these teachers to come through. But there's nothing more powerful than experiencing whatever that medicine is from where it's grown.
It would be cool if you can link to maybe some of the music that you like to listen to in this podcast when you publish it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, you use Spotify?
Yep.
Do you remember what your like top music like genre was? You know how they do the like Spotify rap?
We're really jumping around, huh?
Mhm.
I'm really into, as I spend more time in the mountains, I start connecting more with a lot of bluegrass music, and
Very popular here in
think
Colorado.
it's popular here, and I think there's something about being in the mountains and that elevation that just slowly starts. It feels very unplugged, you know, and I think the groundedness of it, like you have a standing bass, nothing's in an amplifier, at least not really, with a lot of traditional bluegrass, but then it's upbeat, and then it's so that's where most of my Spotify wrapped was bluegrass songs. How about yourself?
Mine was foreign spiritual. Yeah, and so it's almost all in Spanish or like Dene, Lakota, Navajo, something like that. And
wow, so cool. I mean, I had Rising Appalachia.
Nice.
They're kind of like at the intersection.
Yeah,
of
for
those two.
sure. Yeah, very much so. And like Trevor Hall, I've seen them play together before, and yeah, they're phenomenal. Well, back to the mushrooms. I think you're touching on how these plants communicate with each other, how that tree is opening up with the song of the birds, and how even though they're not speaking English, they are communicating. They're not like a rock, even though I do think we communicate with rocks as well, but it's a different way. How do mushrooms play a part in the communication in the forest, in the jungle, wherever they're found?
Yeah, and this is another thing that we're still learning more and more about. I mean, what I know about is the mycelial networks and how they help facilitate communication for trees. Trees communicate with each other through mushroom mycelium. And so, if there's an amazing book to read about this called The Hidden Life of Trees.
I've read that. It's a great book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to it. I've listened to it a few times. That's really beautiful.
Nice. And so then you're familiar with the mycelial networks, and that's really the big one that I'll say that I know about.
I've heard the mycelium network be compared to like our internet.
I love that. Yeah, I like that.
Information is transported through the mushroom's roots, and those mushroom roots are connecting into, it's just a vast web underneath under the dirt.
And the vastness is one of the most mind-blowing things, and I don't have I forget the actual like figures and statistics, but the amount of underground mycelial roots that are interconnected and communicating and transferring nutrients and information is so much more vast than you could ever think, like thousands of miles underground of this happening.
The mushroom roots, the mycelium, they're helping to move information. Any idea on what type of information, or any idea on the nutrients and how that's decided? Is it up to the mushroom? Is it up to the largest tree in the area? I wonder who's the boss of, hey, who's the conductor of that space?
I mean, I really don't know all the answers to that question. Well, for example, I know that if a tree is diseased, it'll actually the network will disconnect that tree so that the disease doesn't spread through the network to another tree, which is just like an example of some of that constant feedback of information and sort of the optimization of that communication system.
Yeah, in the jungle, I'm forgetting the name of the tree, but there's like the largest tree in the jungle, and that tree is the conductor. That's the boss. That's the one that's saying, hey, here's how the nutrients move. Here's how you're doing this, you're doing that, and this is how it's going to go. And the mushrooms play part in that. Like the mushrooms are maybe, I don't know if there's like a hierarchy, but in the jungle, like the biggest tree is the top boss, and then the mushrooms, support that.
Fascinating. Yeah. So much there to discover.
What about different animals, insects? Who else is consuming mushrooms?
What are you talking about? Just culinary, edible?
Any kind of mushroom. I mean, are animals consuming psychedelic mushrooms?
I think there are instances where, for example, like a dog might eat one and it doesn't harm the dog. It
Oh, okay.
just kind of does the similar thing to what happens to a human who might consume a psychedelic,
There's examples, there's
psilocybin.
trail cams of tigers in the jungle eating ayahuasca.
Fascinating.
And then just, having a full-on psychedelic experience.
No wonder we love animals. They've learned so much.
Yeah, they're highly evolved. We just think that they're just these, I mean, they're highly evolved, and then we've also, I think, highly devolved them as well. It's like all dogs came from wolves. Well, then there's like these tiny little puppies that you're like, I don't know. Well, I don't see how you are a wolf.
And you know what's crazy is dogs still are the same species as wolves. Still, they can. The definition of species of being, is that it can reproduce. So it can reproduce. Dogs and wolves can mate and reproduce. So they're still the same species.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because a lot of people assume that it has to be a different species at this point.
There's examples of dogs eating psychedelic mushrooms and being okay.
Yep.
I wonder if there's any benefit to them as well as there are for, in the right set and setting, there's benefits to humans. I wonder if there's any other examples of animals or insects consuming psychedelic or culinary. Like, who else is eating these mushrooms besides just humans?
That's a great question. I've really just been focused on the medicinal health benefits of functional mushrooms. I have not really been looking at sort of the food chain, and I'm not a biologist to that extent. So I'm sure there has to be species that eat mushrooms for nutrients, but I don't know.
It's definitely more vulnerable share for me to get into the psychedelic of things just because of my parents, but I'm leaning into it more and more because it really is a big part of my journey, life, and I'm a big believer in it.
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention is I did go to a Catholic high school, right? And I think I would describe it less like how you were raised with conservative Catholicism and almost like a little bit more of a liberal Catholicism, which a lot of people are surprised to hear can exist.
Yeah.
But, for example, they would give us a quote from Gandhi in the morning or a quote from, I had 30% Jewish students in my school.
I like that.
And so we would just hear little snippets from, we studied many world religions and, I think we kind of learned to figure out how one religion might be able to serve us without being very narrow-minded, and kind of learning the difference between like a literalist, which is like you take every word verbatim, and if something is the devil, then it's the devil, right? And then there's like sort of the fundamentalist, which is like, okay, when this was written, what did this mean at that time, and how could we like reapply that today, and what is the underlying meaning of these words in reading between the lines?
Yeah, that's interesting because different people will interpret the Bible in different ways. People are like literally taking the story of Jonah and the whale, that some guy literally got eaten by a whale and then came out of it. It's like, well, maybe that didn't literally happen, but that is a way of telling a story, that there's a lesson in that. Yeah, many different ways to interpret the Bible as well. I think you can look at it both ways. I've taken some of it both ways, but I think it's I certainly don't believe everything is like literally true within the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, and we're moving into a dangerous territory talking about religion. I think the best religion is the most correct religion is whatever one works for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting that we call it dangerous territory, and there's many things that are dangerous
conventionally speaking, right?
Conventionally speaking, yeah, like politics, dangerous territory. It's so divided. It's like, why does this all have to be so divided? Why can't we just share freely? Like, why is it so suppressed and locked up? And let's be messy and sharing what we think, and let's just like let it flow, let it breathe, bring it to the light. If it all stays in the shadow, like almost shameful, like, it's like, am I going to say the wrong thing? Is someone going to get mad at me? It's like, let it happen. Just do it in a good way. Move from a place of love, and don't get all mad at somebody for their opinions. Just be like, yeah, great. Thanks for your opinion. Thank you for sharing. As so many people are scared to even share in the kind of ways that we're, just starting to brush the surface on right now.
I completely agree. I think the journey to all of us being more compassionate and loving is through more curiosity and discourse, and seeking to understand each other, and I hope we can be living examples of trying to be open-minded and be curious about others with different beliefs.
How would you describe your spiritual path?
I would say that my journey was early exposure to a very institutionalized religion. Grew up in Roman Catholic and in Christianity, and going to CCD, and that just not landing for me, and then seeing this path of logic sort of threatening what I was exposed to, and then going to my high school and realizing from a completely different angle that there are many benefits to spirituality. Coming back into curiosity about ways to have a relationship with higher power and spirituality. That was my journey. I think for example, I have a lot of atheist friends, right? But in blue zones, people who live the longest statistically have a sense of spirituality. And so there's a very logical, scientific argument for being spiritual. So how do you reconcile that as an atheist?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. So for me, I would say that there's a quote from the Anam Cara, which is an Irish book about spirituality, and the quote is, "Many people suffer from a lack of spiritual imagination." I just love that quote because it's like, what might we be depriving ourselves of should we choose to not have some sort of spirituality?
Yeah, I think the spiritual path, the past few years for me, has been one of the most interesting parts of life. And I wonder how do you think of spirituality? Are there different things that make up spirituality? Some will say it's like, well, your health, your activity, the activities that you do, your relationships, the way that you talk to yourself, like these different things kind of all come together, and maybe that's like who your spiritual being is. I wonder, how do you think of like what the spiritual being is? It sounds like you were educated in many different spiritual practices. For me, it was a lifetime. I even went to a Christian college. Christian, religion, like very kind of like, it felt like very tight, very right or wrong, black or white. Hey, let's try to get people from other religions into our religion. It's like, hey, they're good on their religion. Just like let them be. It's like, nope, they're wrong. They're going to go to hell, kind of a thing. And now much more of what feels more like a natural way, one where it's like, oh yeah, we work with connecting into our own soul, our own and into our soul friends. We have guides, teachers. We came here with others, and then there was many teachers, like ascended beings, like a Gandhi or a Jesus as well, that came to help us. I wonder what does spirituality mean to you? What do you think it's comprised of?
Sure, I'd say let's keep going within the confines of the Catholic religion. I did become a confirmed Catholic. Some of the simple teachings that really resonated with me were like, there's a quote: "The purpose of life is to discover your gifts, and the meaning of life is to share them." Simple things like, what am I called to do, and trying to figure that out. So I would say being spiritual is trying to be self-aware and trying to be of value, and trying to be of service to your community, and with your strengths, and to help others, and in a very loving way. I mean, like, we can get so lost in thinking about who Jesus was and how he shows up in the Catholic religion, and at the simplest level, it's showing us what life could look like, how much you could impact others if you choose to live in a very loving, kind way, and a very tolerant, a very giving way. And so it's just showing that, and that's what creates the fervors in so many people. And then there's so many directions people take these simple lessons, in my opinion.
And many times for me, and it's ever changing too.
Oh,
the
yeah.
same lesson can mean 100 different things to me over the course of 10 years.
I love that. Yeah. And, I think the social component of spirituality is just, and there's simple rituals in religion that I think are so powerful. Just like, just shaking someone's hand, and just that to me, that's
Physical
spirituality.
connection.
Yeah.
There's so much truth in the body connecting, the body's connecting with each other. It's like they're having their own interaction, and there's something happening at a different type of a level there. Yeah, there's many levels to our connection. It's to somebody's connection. But yeah, I agree. There's so much knowing. There's so much truth. It's like, oh, how am I when I give somebody a hug or a handshake? I was like, does that energy, there's an energetic exchange. Does that make me want to lean in? Does that make me feel grounded? Does that make me want to lean away? It's like there's something below the surface happening that's can't always perceive. I don't know what like the science of all that is, but there's we're all just like energetic beings, and how do we stay in a clean way so we can feel our own energy and what feels good to us, and then how we can connect with other people's energy in a clean way.
I love that. I think for me, to try to sum up my idea of spirituality, is like, whatever I define a higher power to be, how does it call me to live for a purpose greater than just myself, just me as a selfish individual? Like, is there anything that's calling me to do anything for something greater than just me? And to me, that is my relationship with a higher power, to try to be the best person I can be, and offer value, and help my fellow humans, in this experience of life as a soul trapped in a meat suit on a spinning ball of dirt.
And do you believe that we chose to come back? You say that you use the word trapped. It's like, do you think we've chosen to be here, or that we're forced to be here?
I don't have. I don't know.
I think we've chosen to be here, and I think some people have been here many times. I think maybe something to the idea of reincarnation, and we've been here many times, and this is like a level in the soul's journey. And then people like Jesus max out the level, and they're like, all right, I'm on to the next level, and another kind of who knows what's after this. But I think that the spirit is forever, and that maybe you and I have lived 100 lives before. We've been friends in different ways. Maybe in the last life, you and I were brothers. Maybe in the last life, who knows? But I do think we come, or this is what some indigenous teachings say, is we travel in pods. And typically it's who you're closest with, like parents, siblings, things like that, is who you were. You were in another life with them as well, and then you can graduate out of those pods. Be like, okay, I excel. I excelled out of this pod. You guys are still kind of at this level, and I'm at this level, or vice versa. Yeah, that's what I think. I think we've been here many times, and that's why I can connect with someone and be like, wow, that you're an old soul. Have you ever said that or felt that? Like, how can you be so young, or so like, how can you have so much wisdom in you? It's like, probably because I've been here 1,000 times. It's like, oh, cool. I've only been here like 20 times. Yeah, have a lot more experience.
That's funny. Have you seen it was a recent Disney movie, Soul?
Yes. Great movie.
I mean, I'm not even a movie guy, but that is one of the best movies I've seen.
Yeah. Shout out Disney. More movies like that, please. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Soul. It's a very interesting concept. Have you ever listened to any interviews of people that have had near-death experiences?
I of course. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's often the sort of the type of trauma that some of the most impressive people, have bounced back from. Is there one in particular you're thinking of when you ask that?
Well, I was on a bit of a kick listening to near-death experiences, because it's like these people almost all had the same experience, and they maybe had cancer, or they got in a car crash or something, and they were dead for a minute or a few minutes, or during a heart transplant or something. It's like, you're technically dead. What happens? They all have this sense of oneness. So they know that a cousin is on their way to the hospital, or somebody that cares about them is on the way to the hospital, even though no one told them. They can connect into that person. Like, we're all connected, like a what's the word, like a psychic connection, something like that, some type of non-spoken connection. They're like, oh, that's happening. They can hear the doctors out in the hallway. They're getting information that they're like, when they come back, people are like, how did you know that? But they're just able to connect into everything. So it's a very much a example of how we're all connected. They're tapping into that, us all being connected. And then they go into maybe just like 1 foot or a half a foot out the door into like the spirit soul world. And most are saying that it's a heaven-like experience. Most are saying like, oh yeah, there's no hell after all of this. Spoiler alert, we all go to heaven. There's no, and all the stress and anxiety, like the heaviness, the denseness that we experience in this life, those heavy feelings that we have, the sadness, the fear, that all just evaporates. It's all gone, and it's a place it's more of like a blissful place. And then when we're there, we're not talking English to each other. We're talking. It's almost like a psychic connection. And then you could choose to be like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to go back. I'm not done there. Or that's what, and then they come back and then they're like, oh, now I understand why I had cancer, because it was my mindset. It's like the mind creates what is happening in the body. You had the example of, you had an ulcer when you were in university and you were, very intense, studying, I'm sure, and you're in the classroom all the time. You're just not connected to nature. So like, what's the mindset for me when I was in corporate America and I was in a similar kind of a way? It's like, oh, I'm starting to feel sick and I'm starting to get symptoms in the body. And then I move my mindset and my body more into a healthy way. And then those sicknesses move away. So it's like the mind can shift the body. And a common thing they'll say is, to really heal yourself, have a picture of what you want your future to look like. Be like going for something. Hey, I want to have this beautiful life that you have in your mind. I'm like going for that. So you're always striving for something. And don't listen to the doctors that are saying, hey, you only got a week to live, because we have a way of, anybody in a white lab coat, it's similar to like the robes of somebody in like the church. It's similar like the robes of like the Pope. We think that they're whatever they say is like the absolute truth. Just staying in a positive way can take us out of that sickness.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. Are you familiar with Joe Dispenza? And
not a lot, but a little bit.
He really gets into this world and proving that you can basically cure yourself of disease through meditation. And I say proving because he really is proving that. And Becoming Supernatural, that's one of his books. And I think he's right on the same cutting edge of showing us that connection. And then going back to what you were saying about kind of leaving this world and people almost leaving this world and coming back in, and that connection that is not well understood, right? When my father passed, I could feel it. I wasn't in the same room as him. And I suddenly woke up. It was something like 6:51 a.m. And I felt a giant exhale. And it was kind of like what I was dreaming about the second that I instantly sat up. And I just knew in that moment that my father had just passed. He had been sick for a while. How do you explain that? And 1 minute later, I'm getting a call. And sure enough, a family member was telling me that he had just passed. How do you explain that?
Mm-hmm. How would you explain it? I haven't had an experience like that.
For any folks who don't believe in any sort of spiritual connection like this, I would love some help explaining that one. Coincidence, maybe, but wow,
Yeah, I certainly don't think coincidence. I feel connections like that mostly with my grandma, my mom's mom. Will very frequently, I'll be picking up the phone to call her and she'll call me. Just like, whoa, how are we so in sync? Like we're so in this like perfect timing with each other. And what I hear you saying is that you just had a deep connection with your dad to where you can, feel him.
Yeah, so it's just fascinating. A lot of the unexplained world, whether you're talking about being a human and how we can understand each other through these mysterious ways, or whether you're talking about how that happens in nature through mycelial networks, or the interrelatedness. Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about the quantum field and the ways that almost tune ourselves and our energies into different frequencies of the quantum field to achieve different results in our life. Like if you want to be more successful, just tune yourself to the frequencies of somebody who is already achieving that success, and you're just adjusting your energy and vibrations.
And does he say
with that? Yeah.
Does he say that we have to then meet that halfway? Because that sounds like manifesting. And how do we attune to that energy? That's what I'm doing with practice of this podcast. Is many of my entrepreneurial and people that I look up to based on their spiritual path as well are doing just this. And I'm like, oh, okay. They're living a life that I want to live, and I feel very connected to the type of way that they're moving through life. Let me try on some of the things that they're doing. Let me just try it. Let me just model. It's like, okay, they're doing a podcast. What if I just model it in the same kind of way? What would that feel like? So it's like, yes, my vision is one of a life that they have. And it's like, it's not going to just show up. It's not going to all of a sudden I've got a successful podcast because they do, or like an unbelievable business, or all these trips and opportunities, or keynote speaking, or things that I'm like, oh, I would love, or a ranch, or like multiple homes, or like just this big, beautiful life. And one where they're, they know who they are, and they're, grounded in themselves. So I think it's for me, my understanding is, yes, tune into that. I want that, but I don't know if I can just get it by sitting on the couch and just meditating on all that all day. I think I have to do both. I think I have to really visualize and feel that life that I want, that's like pulling me towards it. And then I have to take steps towards it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's the shortest way to sum it all up is the be, do, have.
Be, do, have.
Be, do, have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to be this way. If I want to be that way, what do I have to do? And then if I do those things, then I'll have what I want to have, right? It's not any other way to get there,
Some of the teachings that I've heard is to not share the vision and the dream that we have seated in us too widely, because we can water it down, especially if we share it with people that maybe don't really believe in us, or don't like hold us in a way where they really like lift us up or trust us. So sometimes I'm hesitant to share what my exact dream or my exact target or my exact goal is. And then when I'm there, I'm like, yeah, hey, I'm here and I can share it. But I'm not frequently sharing where I'm going to go outside of a few, some family, not all family, just some family, and then my mentors as well. And then
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different opinions about that one, so I don't know the answer. I've heard some say, share your goals with everyone, because then they'll hold you publicly accountable to doing them. But then I've heard other people say, share them with no one, because you will experience the gratification as if you have already achieved them, and then lose all motivation to pursue them. And then I've heard people say, share them only with those who can help you accomplish that vision. And I think that sounds like what you're doing, and I guess I would align mostly with that one.
How long has Peak State been around?
I started the business 5 years ago.
Okay, yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
And what was the vision, the dream? Now that you're 5 years in, help us understand like what that vision was as it was starting to show up. Maybe it was seeded. At some point, it was seeded, and then it started to become a reality.
Sure. So, yeah, for me, I recognized how this untapped category of functional mushrooms was helping me feel better, and in a very natural way, just, something that was not a pharmaceutical drug or something like that. It was just helping me feel great.
This is back to the chaga.
That, yeah.
Okay.
And I wanted to share those benefits with others. And my own, the experience I could relate to was, extracting chaga was a lot of work, and it's easy to forget a supplement or a vitamin, but if you're a coffee drinker, you never forget your morning coffee. And I looked at products that were out there in the coffee space, any sort of healthier coffee or mushroom coffee, and a lot of the products were you had to drink a stale chalky powder just to consume them. And I wanted to keep the integrity of like the cup of coffee I liked, which was like a nicer cup of coffee, and then also have a daily dose of the health benefits, which are more accessible when you have a liquid extract. And so we went a very different direction than what was on the market, to try to share the health benefits of mushrooms in a coffee that tastes like what you want coffee to be like a great cup of coffee. And so I think the mission is to solve the taste problem within the mushroom coffee category. But I think the greater vision is to help people and nature thrive, right? I mean, we're living in a world where people are more stressed out than ever before, and especially in the United States, people are very sick, and to try to help them do something that's a little bit better for their health. And also, one of the biggest concerns I have is what we're doing to the environment. And so how can you help the environment during an environmental crisis, right? You can be an activist, you can join a nonprofit working in that space, in that sector, and hope that those accomplish it, or you can try to create some sort of revenue engine. Like, for example, I look up to the brand Patagonia, and they've created a revenue engine that they can now use to stop a dam from being built, go advocate and do policy work. At the end of the day, you look at our most recent elections, and money that buys elections, right? So if you can create a revenue engine through a business, hopefully you can use that revenue engine to start to create some of the positive change that you want to see in society and throughout. For in my case, to create positive environmental change to protect some of these wild places that have been so important in our lives, protect some of the food that we eat by not being covered in pesticides and glyphosate, and that that's the way that I'm inspired to make change. So it's a very loaded business, but for me, it's about promoting health and creating a more sustainable future.
And so, was the vision from the beginning this kind of line of products, or has it evolved?
It's totally evolved, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning, I was extracting the chaga, and I saw you had Peter Jones on the podcast. I was actually delivering mason jars of a chaga tea chai product that he would serve at his cafe, and I was doing that to about 10 cafes in Boulder. And
Shout out Trident Cafe.
Trident, we love
Downtown
Trident.
Love Trident.
Then COVID hit, and it gave me an opportunity to just sit down and reevaluate a way to scale this beyond 10 cafes in Boulder, and me driving a truck around like the milkman and collecting mason jars and washing them. And I thought about something I could ship, and something that people drink every day, like coffee, and that's how we evolved, and here we are.
With a similar path, one of selling like a fresh product to one that's shelf stable that we could share more widely.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been an amazing journey. You just keep going, and all of a sudden, 3 years into it, we were able to participate in some of the pitch contests. And,
tell us about that.
Yeah, so Boulder obviously being one of the natural food hubs.
I think of
in Colorado.
I think of the Silicon Valley of the natural products industry.
I love when people say that,
Mhm.
because I agree. And we did a Shark Tank style competition and
Pitch Slam. I've done that
The Pitch
competition too.
it's intense.
We didn't compete against
Yeah.
each other, but yeah, I mean, you had tell us about your experience in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you imagine Shark Tank for health foods, that's for natural foods, that's like natural products. That's exactly what it feels like. Maybe not as widely broadcast, and as you don't have investors making crazy offers that you have to say yes or no to on the spot. But
It's for Boulder. It's just Boulder businesses, and there's naturally Chicago, New York, LA. There's naturally Boulder has kind of
scaled their program, and it actually naturally Boulder became naturally Colorado. But yeah, I think for us that was just a major win. I mean, I guess.
And you won. You won the whole pitch.
The year that we did it, we actually it was our second attempt at it, but we did come in first place in the Naturally Boulder Pitch Slam, and for us that was just amazing to see. What happens when you're committed to doing something meaningful, and you just get lucky that the timing is right, and the market. It's the right timing for what you're bringing into the world, and so for us, it was just an amazing thing to put us on the map. So. Super grateful for the community here that, the community is everything, like knowing you and being able to like share ideas and even commiserate sometimes about some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, especially in our industry. And I think that if you're somebody trying to do something like this where you don't have that community, you are going to last a quarter of the time, if that,
Yeah. That's what brought me here was the community. I went to the pitch slam. I saw Marcus McCauley win. I was like, I want to be friends with him. Moved into his commercial kitchen, then moved into, he actually shepherded me into the indigenous world a little bit. He used to have a sweat lodge on his property. He sold his property, but that was my first sweat lodge. And it's just like, the community has been the most surprising and beautiful part of the whole journey. And it's like, it's just like, enjoy the journey is what I keep reminding myself. Yeah, it would be great to achieve certain things within the business, but it's like, it's all the journey is what I hear the people that I've already hit, many, many summits say. So just enjoy it. And the biggest part of the journey is the people I've connected with. I'm happy to hear you say similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's the backstory. Been a very humbling journey and also a beautiful journey. And I think ultimately doing this seemed more interesting than some sort of conventional cubicle job, and I have no regrets.
Yeah. What have been some of your biggest learnings, takeaways from this journey on the entrepreneurial side, or maybe insights into the customer, or any type of insights that were hard won and hard learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think a business exists to serve a market, and I think focusing on listening to your market and your customers and figuring out how to better serve them is like a direct reflection of your revenues and profits. And so it's, we might have a product idea and try to push it into the world, and very, very rarely is that how it works. And so I think I've learned that any success that I can achieve comes from how well I can serve and add value. And that was very humbling. I think I've also learned not to measure my own self-worth through the lens of how my business is doing.
That's a powerful one. It's so easy to get intertangled with the business, and I've fallen into that trap many, many a times.
Yeah, and
I'm happy if my business is doing well today.
Most of my entrepreneurial friends are some of the most impressive people I know. And, so multi-talented, but then they might be depressed. I've gone through depression being an entrepreneur. I'm sure you can relate to periods of being down on yourself. And it's just so interesting because we're measuring. It's like that Einstein quote: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. Well, we're all just like fish climbing trees who are very good at swimming in water, but we're all beating ourselves up because we're not doing a great job at climbing trees, and most people never try. And that's what it's like being an entrepreneur, and recognizing, oh yeah, I chose to try to climb a tree, and I knew it was going to be hard, and I can't beat myself up just because it's hard.
Yeah. And do you feel like you have to do this? Do you feel a calling of this is just, I have to do this? Or is it what keeps you in the game?
I'll at least say I know that I felt a calling that I had to do this. Right?
To at least try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I knew that I would regret not trying to bring something that had such a powerful effect on my life to others. I would regret not trying. And so to that extent, one thing that I know that I have to do is continue to evaluate if what I'm doing is serving others and doing that for them and bringing that value to them. And as long as it is, I have to keep doing it. And if it's not, then I don't have to keep doing it. Yeah.
I think that, and I also think the same for, is it continuing to serve me? Me being my growth and self-discovery being number one above all. And it's so easy to compare one number for success. How much money is in the bank account? How much revenue? That's so easy to compare. Or to just fall to that. Is my worth the amount of money in the bank account, or the amount of revenue I'm getting, or the profitability, or things like that? Those are important things, but it's not the only thing. I really enjoy autobiographies and listening to some people end of life share hey, here's what I learned. I've reached every summit, and here's what was most important. It's who did I become? The business was a catalyst. Thank you, business, for being so hard that I had to grow to be able to match or be able to handle the difficulty that it takes to get to even this level of business that we're in. So it's more of building these businesses is good and helping people is good, but it's who did I build myself into, and who did I become? And at the end of life, can I look back and be like, hey, I really gave it my all, and I met some amazing people along the way, and had some great adventures. And man, there were some things that were really hard. I didn't think I could get through, and I always found a way.
Absolutely. I think we both know Aaron Mansica. I love how he says, how your business might be a tool for personal growth. I think that bent my mind a little bit when I first thought about that. But like entrepreneurship as a tool for personal growth and personal development, for how it might enrich the individual to then better show up next in whatever the next journey looks like. That is an interesting thought for sure, and a powerful one.
Yeah, it's been very humbling for me. You'd see people online flashing cars and houses and things like that. You wonder how much of it is real. And I think it kind of screws people up, thinking that this is anybody that gets into any business is you're going to be instantly successful and millions of dollars. And I think that brings people too far out of reality or expectation. And I think I was a little bit in that kind of thought, like, oh, I'll get into business. I was great at sales. Sales is like, if you could sell, you've got a business. Like, that's the hardest part is selling the product. There's a lot more to it than that. Sales is still the most important thing, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I was like, man, I've just been unbelievably humbled by the business. And I think that's good. I think it's good to be humbled. I think it's good to get that ego checked.
Well, what are some of the, maybe 3 lessons you've learned trying to bring the powerful benefits of microgreens into the world and the journey of being an entrepreneur?
I would say number 1 is listen to the business. Like the business, in some ways, I think of the business, it's like, this wasn't my own idea. Like this idea came from somewhere, but it wasn't, I almost think of it like it's like a being. It might even be like an angel-like being. That's how I think of the business. It's like it came down and it wanted to partner with me. It's like, I want to work with you to do this business, but you gotta listen to me. And in my mind, my ego, I'm like, I know the way. I'm going to do it this way, and I'll just keep getting hit until I listen to the business. And what the business says to me right now is love me and share my voice. So I have had moments of, sadness, anxiety, frustration, anger towards the business. Almost sometimes I'm like, when it's really not working, I'm like, I've built myself like this prison. That's not a very positive mindset. It's like, no, this is actually a gift. This whole thing is a gift. The hardest things I've ever gone through are the thing when I look back on them, I'm like, those are things I'm the most grateful for. You're a mountain climber. You're like a big nature. It's like, I want to climb those really hard mountains because that's where like the most gold and gifts are. So it's like, I chose this, but I need to also listen to the business because the business is communicating with me as well. My friends that are like spirit led, that have very successful businesses, the way that they say it to me is, we become stewards of the business. The business is communicating with us so much that it's just telling us what to do. And we're like the physical hands that are sending the email and moving the product and opening renting the space and whatever it is. It's like the business is telling us what to do. We're just stewards of it. And that's my daily prayer and my listening is to my business to evolve enough. I would say if it had an age, it's like my business is somewhere between like 3 and 6 years old, like a 3 and 6 year old kid. Like that's the way that it's kind of its ability to stand and kind of go on its own. And it's like I could do a little bit, but it's still in a bit of an infant stage. And it's like, okay, helping this business to grow up by listening to what it needs, hoping, the prayers to get to that point to where it's really just directing me. And I'm just it's great. It's, ally and helper to grow.
I love that analogy of, almost like you're being like raising a child. And I often ask entrepreneurs who are further along than us, I often ask them, is it harder to raise a kid or start a business? And some of them say start a business. And, I think makes me think of the quote, like it's easier, raise the child it wants to be, not raise the child you want it to be, right? Like in parenting, I'm not even a parent yet, but like It sounds like a pretty logical way to do it. And same thing though with our business. We often get stuck in the mindset of trying to raise it the way we want it to be, and not the way that it wants to
All
be.
the time. I think that's all ego. That's me. I know best. I know what I'm doing. I'm all up in my head about it. And again, coming back to these like indigenous ways, they call it walking the red road, walking the road of prayer. Be more in that prayer and that listening versus the I know what to do. I'm the smartest. I've got ego, ego, ego. It's like, how can I just stay in the prayer of it and trust that and keep myself in a good way so I could also stay in the game too? That's another thing. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's really hard to be in business for 6 years. It's easier if you're like wildly profitable and you're crushing it, like that's great. But at like a break even type of a place for 6 years, or even burning money for 6 years, that's personal investment. It's really hard to stay in the game. So how can I best take care of myself so I can be in the game? I'd rather be in the game and even just learning and connecting and growing than, oh, I've gotten sick because I haven't taken care of my nutrition, my sleep, myself. And so now I'm sidelined. I'm burned out. I can't even be in the game. And I'm not helping myself. I'm not helping others. So it's just like, stay in the game, and you got to take care of yourself to be in the game.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're segueing into another lesson. So the first one was listen to your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would you say maybe another couple lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Well, I would say that second one is this is a marathon, and you got to take care of yourself. It's not a sprint, and you'll go farther with team. And sometimes it can be really expensive to have team, but there's different ways of structuring deals to get more team around. And I would say that the third one is to really understand what my role in the business is. Who am I in the business, and who am I not? And for what I'm not, fill that in with other people. And how can I spend as much time as possible in the area that brings me the most joy and where I'm the most beneficial to the business? And it can be kind of tricky to figure that out. You've read a bunch of the EOS books?
EOS,
yeah. Have you read Rocket Fuel?
I haven't read Rocket Fuel, but I've been reading massively in a similar way. And one author on the subject, his name is Benjamin Hardy. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Who Not How, and it's about bringing in the who's, not how am I going to do all this. Who is the right person to bring on the team to help for us to do this together? And that's just an interesting mindset. It's almost hard to let go when you're used to being a rugged individualist, trying to do everything and stretching yourself thin, switching the mindset to saying, well, like, what if I can't do any of this and I just need to find the perfect person for that function of the business, that task that needs to get done? That's fascinating.
And I think those people will just show up too, if we're listening. All the best things that have happened to me in this business, they've just shown up. I haven't gone out and hunted them down like I did for a decade of software sales. I was a hunter. I was going out and finding and bringing in new business. This, or at least on like the internal, more like operations team side, it is by me putting my voice out there, somebody hearing it from social media, and then just knocking on my door saying, hey, I dig what you're doing. I've been watching you, or I'm new to you, or whatever. I want to explore partnership with you in some kind of a way. And all the best, like A+ opportunities and partners that have shown up have been through that way. But you got to be in the game for those people to show up. You got to put your voice out there, at least for that kind of a strategy and thinking.
What have you learned about self-care as an entrepreneur? You were touching on that a little bit. Like, what's your advice to figure out a way to self-care?
I think it's many little things that add up to one big thing. So it's like, I've rebranded to Be Micro, and that's part of one of our taglines is the small things that add up to the big things. So it's not so much about taking out the bad things. The more good things you add in, there's just going to be less room for the bad things, the things that don't serve. So how can you create routine to do many small good things. It starts in the morning with, waking up. First thing I do, I already have like a lemon and salt water prepared. I chug that. My supplements are already organized for the morning and for the afternoon. It's like, boom. I make my bed. I go right outside. I'm trying to wake up for the sunrise, and I rise with the sunrise. I watch the sunrise. You can watch it for about 10 minutes, and like letting that like fully in. I mean, the sun, everything's communicating with us, but but being able to look into the sun and let that sun communicate with us, and they say it can like penetrate like all the way through your body as well. But also it helps with your circadian rhythm. So that first thing in the morning is going to actually help with your sleep. And it just goes on and on like that. It's like, oh, I have these routines. I plan things into my calendar. If it's in my calendar, it's happening. The more, there's a Jocko Willink quote, but like, discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined I am, the more healthy I am, the stronger I am, the more I can do things. If I'm never working out, well, I'm not going to get to do a 14er with you. If I'm not sleeping good or not taking my supplements or eating clean, I'm not going to have the energy to do what I'm doing right now or run a business or, interview people or do anything. It's like health is the most important thing. About 3 weeks ago, I got a sinus infection. I had tubes in my ears as a kid, and like that's my canary in the coal mine. If my ear starts to hurt, and then I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get sick, and it moved all the way through me. I thought it was COVID, but it was like I was in bed for pretty much for just like a week. And it's like a sick person has one dream, and that's to just get better. Like, yeah. I'm like, I don't have the dream of doing a podcast. I don't have the dream of going and hanging out with friends or going to, it's like, my dream is just to get better. And a healthy person like you and I currently are, it's like, we've got a million dreams. I'm like, I could do anything if I'm healthy. So it's not just one thing. I don't just go into the gym once a month and lift all the weights. It's like, no, my goal is I need to move 6 days a week. I need to just break it all up and just, it's lifestyle. It's like build it into my life.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now and save with code STEVE15 at bmicro.farm.
Right. And I think we often neglect ourselves for our businesses, right? Like, oh, I can't go for a jog. I can't, cook myself a meal from scratch because I have so much, to do for the business. And we forget that it's actually the opposite. Like, I need to eat that healthy meal and get that workout in, because how I show up when I'm taking care of myself is going to create really positive business results. I'm going to be showing up, and the way that I'm showing up is going to attract great people who want to get involved in health. And if we're the biggest ambassadors for our brands, and we're helping people access healthier products, but we're not taking care of our own health, that's pretty ironic. That's that's not very credible.
Yeah, I'd say I've gone through phases where, and friends have gone through, other entrepreneur friends have gone through the phases of just sacrificing everything, sacrificing my sleep, there's the quote of like, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of a thing. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to last very long. Like, that doesn't work. You can't just not sleep. Like, you got to sleep, and you got to sleep in, a pretty good way. But yeah, that's it. And I've also experienced friends that have had burnout, and burnout's a real thing, where it's like that person can't work in a high level way now for maybe a few years. It's like it takes a long time to come back from burnout. I think that's a way under discussed thing. But yeah, I've had friends that have experienced burnout, even friends that experienced burnout after selling companies for tens of millions of dollars. They're like, I'm just dead. It's like, how, I don't know what that burnout exactly is. Something in the nervous system just shot, and it takes I don't know, have you experienced anyway? Have you gotten close to that, or do you know
absolutely.
anyone that? Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of the burnout, I arrived there by thinking I had to do everything. And I was thinking that my self-worth was directly linked to my business's success. I was thinking that I had to neglect myself and focus on giving it everything I had. And these 3 beliefs, they were all wrong. And I had to let go of them, and then come back and build myself back from that, and recognize, oh, like, this is like something that I'm going to, exactly the things that we were talking about. I'm going to honor this business and let it be what it wants to be, and be a shepherd for it, and to help guide it, and let it grow up into the adult that it wants to be, and that my self-worth is completely not tied to that. My self-worth is tied to, am I happy? Am I healthy? Do I have quality relationships in my life? Am I doing the things that I enjoy, even recreationally? Do I find mission in the work that I'm doing? Great, then I'm doing great. And these were big reframes that I think helped me in my journey.
And when did that reframe come in?
For me, in 2022, but I was also, a relationship was ending. It's all interesting how rock bottom can give you so much clarity, how to grow next and how to become a better person and how to change and evolve and let go of what's not serving you. And I think some of the most pivotal moments in my life, the most important moments, were the ones where I hit rock bottom. How about you?
I'd say the same. And I think another great ability in anyone, especially an entrepreneur, is fall down and get back up right away. I see that when I was in software sales, it's constant rejection. In our world, there's a lot of rejection as well, but it was so strong in software. It was like the stats were, for every 10 people you reach out to, one is going to do a deal with you. And so it's like the mindset was like, good, I'm glad you said no to me, because I'm that much closer to a yes. And the type of people that did the best in software sales were athletes, because they're used to falling down, losing. And they're like, well, there's going to be another game. I'm going to get back up and I'm going to win that next game. I'm going to do what I need to do. I was a tennis player. I'm going to fix that serve. I'm going to fix that mistake, that double, that whatever it is. I'm going to just work. I'm just going to drill that until that's no longer a weakness, and I'm going to get back up. And so it's people that just really know how to self-assess and can ask for help, ask for mentors and coaches, like help guide me, help be a mirror to me, so I can see, so you can help me see what I can't see. Yeah, really just the ability to fail and get back up, because it's just like constantly failing. So how do we get back up? And now I play a game when I fail like really big. I'm like, whoa, that was a big fail. Now I go and I celebrate it, and I go do something really nice for myself. I'll go book a massage, or I'll do like a nice dinner, and I'll be like, I'll celebrate the fail, because that's where some of my greatest lessons have come from.
Right. And that, it's like no such thing as failure, only failure to learn. Right. So
yeah, and failure is not even like really the right word. It's more of like, I just got that lesson. I got that hard fought lesson. And it's like, wow, I just learned another thing. And now I'm leveling up because of it too. I know more through that challenge than I did before. I'm a stronger person and entrepreneur because of it.
Totally, right. And it's literally, successful people are just those who tried and failed through more iterations. So they just have more resilience of going through more failures to get to those successes. And it's just it's an amazing and important thing to remind yourself, is like, oh yeah, that this is actually going to make me successful, this failure. I love that idea of celebrating. That's beautiful.
And I might not even know how this is going to turn out in the future, or what benefit this is going to be to me in the future. But now, having done this business for 6 years, and they say 5-6 years now, they say many entrepreneurs don't really even learn. It doesn't really even like click until year 7. It's like, oh, year 7, you kind of turn the corner, like, oh, I'm starting to see how the game is. And now I see it in a way where if I were to start this business or a similar business, I could do it in 1/10 the time with 1/10 the amount of money, and I could really assess the business in ways that I wasn't even aware of that existed. I could really assess a business now. I'm like, wow, I could stand up a business a lot easier now, and that's where my interest is. I'm like, how can I bring through different ways? How can I help bring more businesses? I don't want to spread myself thin, but I'm very interested in this space, natural product space. I think it's a very hard space to do, surprisingly hard to bring like a really high quality product to market and to scale it. But I'm like, man, looking back, I'm like, I could really bring, I feel very confident in bringing more businesses to market right now.
Right. And then we know that, the next time we do this, we want to make sure we know how to know if it's going to work better. We have I like to say, I've cultivated through all my hard lessons as an entrepreneur, I've cultivated a superior power of seeing like what I should do next, like what's a better opportunity.
Yes.
And
hard fought wisdom.
Yeah. And so, even if you have absolutely nothing, let's say let's say both of our businesses go bankrupt, we have the most important thing, which is the wisdom that we gained to see the next opportunity
And the
with
connections.
so much more clarity. And of course.
It's like, oh, I could, if you were like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this business, and I thought that we could do a joint venture on it. It's like, oh, well, instantly I'm like, I'm listening. Like, what's there? And I'm sure you've got, many people that you could bring that to. And for me as well, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of people through this world that I could work with, that like know the game as well and have the connections or the marketing or whatever it is. It's when you build something from like zero, like we have, and regardless if you exit or it disappears or whatever, it's like the confidence of being able to do it again is really high versus someone that maybe didn't earn it. It was given to them through a family member or some type of like a lotto situation or whatever. It's like that would be a great angst of like, oh man, if this all goes bad, I don't even know how we even got here. So I couldn't do it again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, I think if you think about, would you do it all again? A lot of entrepreneurs say they wouldn't. A lot of, for example, I think I saw, I don't know, one of the CEO of NVIDIA talking about, would you do it all again? He said, no, I've never thought it would be this stressful. I never thought we would have to go through what we did. And that's really interesting too, is like, we gain like, okay, if we're going to do something all over again, we know how to make sure that it's either going to be a higher likelihood of succeeding or of greater service or of more importance to the world. And I think like we wouldn't just take some sort of egoic product that we've created and just force it into the world.
That's exactly what I did in the beginning. I didn't even survey at all. I'm like, this product's going out there and it's going to do great and you guys are going to love it. And it's like, whoa, and that product's gone. That product doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah, that's really interesting. For me, I was so naive, and that naivete allowed me to start this business. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. I don't even know all the different parts of the business. I'm like, oh, okay. You learn along the way and you start to learn all the different parts. It's certainly not an easy road. Would I do it again? I think like the fast answer is no. I think if I like thinking about it more, I would, or maybe I would do another business, but I would definitely do business I like knowing what I know now. I like the people that I know, and I like this ability that I feel in myself to be able to do this again, with other products. Just like this podcast, this is a new business. I'm like, okay, I understand what goes into it. And from going down this natural products path, I've got this huge network of people that I could just easy for me to get the people on the podcast. Yeah. Like there's all these amazing people. They're just like, yes, like yourself. You're like, yeah, I'll be there. Like when?
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. I was like, yeah, easy, no problem. Next week, sounds good.
Yeah. So if I didn't do all that, like this podcast wouldn't be possible. Like how am I just going to reach out to a bunch of natural products entrepreneurs or people, plant professionals? They're like, everyone's like, we have no idea who you are. You have no credibility in the space. You have no, like, what are you, like, no, it'd be a bunch of no's. Instead, it's like 9 out of 10 people are just like a yes, like right away.
And a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in this vicious 6-month cycle of basically you go from what you were just saying, naive optimist, to I could do that, to then informed pessimist, right? And then the question is like, what do you do with that? Do you now say, oh my God, now I know how this works and this seems impossible. I'm going to quit and do this other thing that somebody told me I could get rich doing or whatever it is. And unlike a lot of people who might have this 6-month shiny object system, you have endured, you have stuck with it. Why do you think that you have stuck with it? What's been keeping you going for 6 years?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I just have to do this. It's like feels like part of my path, mission. Like it just keeps coming up when I pray about it, and that's where like I get the most peace, truth, clarity is in prayer. It's like, yeah, keep going. This is it. And for whatever reasons that is, maybe it's because this is the best vehicle to teach me in the lessons I need to learn to, create a direct-to-consumer business in the natural product space, so that when the next opportunity, who knows why I have to do it? Does the world really need freeze-dried microgreens? Maybe. I think they're pretty great. Maybe it's more of like this is just the teacher for the next thing. It's hard to say, but I'm also like a very committed person. Like when I say I'm going to do something, I'm just almost stubbornly, I won't quit. And I'm finding balance in it to where it's easier. But I'm also, yeah, I think there's like it shows up in other areas of life, like a very strong commitment to where I'm like, I just won't quit.
And have you also had an element of like, maybe a really positive customer review or story that they shared with your product that has just made you just put wind in your sails or anything like
People
that?
say things to where I'm like, I almost can't even believe them. I'm like, how could it help in that kind of a way? I'm like, what is that? It helped you with what? I've never even heard of that. They're like, oh yeah. And some people will buy 10 of them at a time because I have to share it with all my friends. It's like, holy cow.
Those are the
So
moments that just take you from rock bottom to just all the wind in your sails.
yeah, you're like, oh, I'm really helping people. And it's almost sometimes I'm like, are you sure? Like this helped you with the like what? I also do a lot of lab tests. I'd say my biggest investment is in lab tests to really understand what's in these microgreens because so little is understood of what's in these microgreens that I wouldn't continue to do this if the lab tests didn't show that there was great benefit. There's also a felt sense. Like I sit and work with these microgreens, just like on a, I don't know, prayerful, energetic, spiritual way. And I can sense the vibrancy. It's like when I consume them, this is the point in the plant's life when it's the most vibrant. So it gives us that youthful vibrance. We're consuming that as well, and it lifts us up in that kind of a way. It's like it's really supportive of healthy aging. So as we get older, we lose the ability to do certain processes like detoxify the body as efficiently as we could when we were 20. Like we lose 1 to 2% our detoxifying ability after the age of, and so after the age of 20. So what's in some very unique compounds that are in the broccoli, radish, cabbage, cruciferous vegetables, the brassica family, are like the most powerful fuel for empowering the body to detoxify itself. So like these mushrooms, these microgreens, they can detoxify the body. And why is that important? Because that just pulls poison out. And the more poison we pull out, the cleaner and healthier and happier and more capable and clear-headed we are, not just like in the physical body, but also like in our mind. I think it's really, really important. And having done a lot of plant medicine work, I can clearly see where these microgreens support people in their path to like rid the bad things out. Like we need to like keep clearing all this bad stuff out. I mean, our clothes are made out of plastic. There's plastic in our water. There's poison in our air. It's like, holy cow, like we're constantly being poisoned in a way like no civilization ever has before. And we need to clear it out like in an ever increasing way. Like we can't avoid it. The air is what it is. The water is what it is. Like, I have very clean water at home, but you never know, the seed oils, it's hard to even go out to a restaurant because it's just poisons everywhere. And so that's what I see of our products is how do we rid the body of the poison the easiest way? You're sneaking into coffee. People that drink coffee, they are diehard drinking coffee. Hey, might as well drink a coffee that's better for you. Right. Coffee on its own is already one of the most detoxifying plants.
Antioxidants. Now, 99% of coffee that has pesticides in it, not so detoxifying, right?
Good point.
So it's like, a lot of people have sensitivities to coffee. They're like, oh, it makes me so jittery, it upsets my stomach. Well, and you can almost say the same thing with a lot of the gluten sensitive folks is like, yeah, well, one thing that maybe we haven't even noticed about coffee and wheat is there's pesticides, an incredible amount of pesticides grown in almost all of the product that is prevalent in our food system in the United States. And so it's like, well, have you considered that maybe a coffee without pesticides might create less adverse effects on your body, and then maybe one that also has some health benefits for you, right?
So, yeah, your product leans more into life extending versus a coffee that has pesticides that I would view as more leaning more into life shortening.
Yeah, I mean, I was not going to be comfortable like trying to introduce a product that's healthier for somebody if it was something that still had the same level of pesticides as is conventional in the coffee category.
Because what's the point? Like, why would I even do that? Is it for some
Somebody
type
might
of
say, I want to make money. That's
right?
their point. That was
I
not
want
my
the
point.
biggest
Yeah.
margin. I'm going to lie. It's going to be a quick money grab. I don't care if people get sick. There's a lot of that out there,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
especially in both. It sounds like both of our categories. You know,
Yeah.
I see a lot of coffee is a loaded category of low quality. Maybe it was sun grown. They cut down the rainforest to grow it faster. They exploited the labor just to keep it as cheap for the highest margin possible. So low to no wages for the farmers. And then you see, you know, a lot of pesticides to make sure that the crop yields as much as possible. And you end up with a product that's what the majority of coffee is, right? So if we were going to start a business that was a coffee with health benefits, we had to also solve all three of those problems. We weren't going to just look the other way. And I think a lot of the same issues occur in the chocolate industry. And so, you know, everything we do is sustainably grown. It's fair trade. It's you know, organic. And sometimes we have a couple of regenerative organic products, and that's because we couldn't look the other way. We had to do it right. And if it's going to hurt our profit margin, that's okay, because we're not here just to make money. We're here to try to solve some of these problems that exist in our world. And if we can help people solve those problems while they drink a cup of coffee, that's good for you. Great.
I love that. Now help people understand what USDA organic means, and then the next level, you know, like the regenerative organic. Like, to be regenerative organic, the precursor is to be USDA organic. What does that mean? As B Micro is now regenerative organic certified.
Is it really amazing?
Yeah. Yeah. We're the first microgreens company in the country to have that.
Awesome. So I think organic was the first movement to showing that our food is free from harmful pesticides and toxins, even some of the chemicals that can be in fertilizers. You know, organic is a way of communicating that this product meets certain standards to not be exposed to those chemicals during the farming and growing process. And then regenerative organic is one step further. It's saying it's not just organic, but it's contributing in a way that is sustainable to the topsoil, such that farming can continue there, because we're actually not farming in ways that are able to be continued, because we're depleting all the soil of its nutrients. It also explains how farmers are treated fairly and not exposed to those same harmful chemicals. So it does symbolize a lot, and communicating regenerative organic has been a struggle, but I think in the simplest way, it is the only way to keep farming and providing food. You know, industrial agriculture cannot continue. So this is an alternative. How would you define what the regenerative organic and regenerative farming?
I would say
movement
it's
is all
a
about?
return to nature, to working with nature than against it. I think traditional agriculture is, you know, monocropping, where it's like, hey, let's just turn miles into cornfield and spray it with herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers. Like, it's so unnatural. And that's why you have to throw all these chemicals on it, because it's like the plant wouldn't even survive without it. So how do we work with nature, not against nature? And then there's also components of better for the people and better for animals as well. But I think our main piece of it is better for the environment, better for the plants, better for the land. Yeah.
Yeah, spot on. So that's amazing. I'm so excited to hear that you got that done.
Yeah, thank you. I want to gift you one of my products. This is our Booster Blend. It's a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage. That's our whole leaf form. We now have a powdered form as well. But a lot of people, we've probably traded before. Have you tried that product?
Yeah. I've had one of your products. And how do you recommend consuming this one? Do you recommend, you know, putting in a smoothie? Do you recommend
That's our new smokable line of.
All right. Yeah. Smoke your vegetables.
Yeah, smoke your vegetables. I'm just trying it out. I think some people might love it. I'm trying to get a more addictive product out there.
I love it.
Get people hooked on them. But yeah, I would use it as a raw food garnish, meaning once you've plated the eggs, pasta, pizza, soup, whatever, then you put 1 to 2 teaspoons on. 2 teaspoons is is equal to 2 cups of leafy greens. And there's about 30 servings in there. So it's a very easy way to sneak those nutrients in. So you're getting your vegetables in. And the main benefit is there's very powerful antioxidants in it. They're like, that help detoxify the body, help empower the body to make its own antioxidants. We have an antioxidant factory in us, and that's one of the most powerful antioxidants for helping the body to produce its own.
Wow, I love how you said sneak. That's great. I think we're sneaking health into people's lives. That's great.
Yeah. What do you think of microgreens? What is your kind of energy on it? What do you think of when you think microgreens? What's there for you?
And I think like it's like anything. There's so much to learn. For me, I wasn't aware of how much more nutrient dense they were until I met you. Compared to regular vegetables, and like I guess as they reach their maturity, and so just learning like, wow, okay, this is like 10 times the servings of a normal
40 to 100.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, I think that was just mind blowing for me. So I think it's amazing what you're doing to help people, especially in a society where people are so used to convenient food and fast food and microwavable meals and things like that. You're making getting your daily dose of vegetables very feasible, and that's so important. So that's amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Now I've got a lightning round that I'd like to move into as we start to wrap this up. Sponsored by B Micro, the easiest way to sneak your vegetables into any meal. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So it's going to be just like a one sentence response kind of thing. I'm just going to ask you a question, one sentence response. We'll just rip through it fast.
Let's do it.
What is your favorite plant and why?
I'd go with
mushroom.
Yeah, I would go with carrots because they are easy to snack on and also take to a level of a very nice meal.
Most underrated plant?
I would say the whole entire kingdom of mushrooms and fungi.
If you could only use one plant for the rest of your life.
Define use.
Consume.
Like eat?
Sure. But there's a lot of ways to consume plants. As a tea, people smoke plants, people tincture plants. But yeah, or you could eat it.
I would say kale. It just seems it's such a powerful, nutrient-rich food that, if that was the one thing that I could put in, having a green smoothie every day, that's great.
High in magnesium, I think.
Yep.
I think most people are very deficient in magnesium. A plant you've recently become fascinated with.
Microgreens.
Tell us more.
Yeah, just learning, would you say 40 to 80 times the nutrients? Yeah, that's amazing. I would also say cabbage. Like, it's like having a comeback.
A fun fact, broccoli is cabbage. Broccoli is a man-made vegetable and derived from cabbage.
I just made, that's wild. I just made cabbage pancakes. It's like a Japanese thing. Have you heard of okonomiyaki?
No, I love the way that you say it, though. It sounds great.
It's like you literally chop up cabbage and mix it with flour, and you make like a pancake, and you put like a nice sauce over it, like a sriracha aioli.
Oh, wow.
And it is just like a super cabbage pancake.
Are you doing a purple cabbage?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one you want. So that's what we have in there. It's called a red cabbage, but it's purple. And that is, when we lab test the microgreens, that's the most powerful of all the microgreens.
Okay.
So more of that. Best piece of advice you've received?
Be radically self-forgiving, or actually be delusionally self-forgiving. Like if you screw up, if you make a mistake, to a point of delusion, forgive yourself for it.
Thank you. One plant you want to learn more about?
Bok choy.
I think that's also the brassica family.
Is it?
I think so. What's your spirit plant? Just like how people say spirit animal, what's your spirit plant? What plant are you?
These are questions I should have thought about. I think my spirit plant is the bristlecone pine.
Tell us a little more.
I want to have the wisdom that tree has. Like they can live longer than 5,000 years.
Where do those live?
They grow in these environments. They grow in desert environments at higher altitudes, and they can live longer than any other tree animal. It's amazing.
5,000 years.
5,000 years. That's the oldest tree.
Here's a fun fact. Sharks are older than trees.
Tell me more.
Sharks evolved, became a thing before trees did, before plants did. There was sharks in the ocean before their plants existed.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I think by, I forget the numbers, but it's like by hundreds of thousands of years or some huge amount of time, sharks have been around longer than plants for like a long time.
I had no idea.
One piece of advice to a new plant entrepreneur, new natural products entrepreneur. Maybe you give yourself or give anybody.
My advice would be solve an unsolved problem with a large customer base that needs that solution.
Beautiful. Where can people find, great job, where can people find more out about you, Peak State? People want to learn more about you. Where can they go?
Sure. Definitely check us out at peakstatecoffee.com. That's peak like mountain, state like Colorado. And we do a free sample there. So you can get a bag on me for brew up a pot of coffee, 4-ounce sample.
What do you recommend as like a first product? People that haven't heard of Peak State, you have several options here. What do you think is like a good entry point? One or two products that you think is most people?
Yeah, try the medium roast, the immunity boost medium roast. We can ship it to you with whole bean or ground or in a single serve coffee in a tea bag. If you don't have a coffee brewer, you can just order one of these single serve coffee in a tea bags and give it a shot. And I'm happy to send you a free sample if you're listening to this podcast. So just email me at danny@peakstatecoffee.com.
Great. Anything else that you want to share? Last words of
No, but
thoughts?
Stephen, thanks so much for having me on the podcast and inviting me in. And it's been amazing going through the journey of growing a natural food brand over the last 5 years. I love what you're doing.
You too.